This episode is brought to you by Hankook Tyres.
Alrighty, thanks everyone again for sticking around for this panel. Accelerating the future, the latest cutting edge tech in EVs. This will be a fantastic panel. We've got some fantastic guests with me as well. Starting off with Sam Evans, the Electric Viking, almost needs no introduction. Just a few fans. Chris Vanderstock, popular YouTuber from Melbourne. And Mr. Jason Clarke as well from Xpeng. And I'm Tom Gann, founder of the YouTube channel Ludicrous Feed. Thank you so much for joining us today. Let's whip around and introduce ourselves really briefly. Thanks, Sam.
Hello everyone. It's great to be here. It's exciting, there's so many people here. I'm just sort of picturing what it was last year, this year bigger, next year bigger, bigger and bigger and bigger. I'm Sam Evans, I'm the Electric Viking. I love seeing the excitement around EVs, so much positivity here. And there's new cars here, you guys are here, it's great to have you, so I'm really excited.
I'm with you, Sam. Appreciating that year on year, like I've had electric cars for now 4 years, and just seeing the growth in this audience and the interest, the breadth of cars is awesome. So yeah, I run Electric Chris on YouTube, and I'm that guy who took the Victorian Government to the High Court of Australia to get rid of the EV tax, so you might know me from that. And otherwise, yes, thank you. Otherwise, yeah, I love technology and looking at EVs.
Thanks, Tom. I've got to say that the atmosphere here today is electric. Yeah, I just made $50 for that poor gag. No, really, I have. I'm Jason Clarke. I'm the CEO of TrueEV, and we're the distributor of the Xpeng brand here in Australia.
Woo. Thank you, Jason. We might start with you, actually. Question, what do you envision as the most transformative technology in electric vehicles that could redefine the industry in the next 5 years?
Was that to me, Tom?
That's for you, my friend.
Yeah, penalty for the bad gag. So, look, clearly I see the technological advancement in two areas, obviously hardware and software. Hardware, more like the visual design of a vehicle, the design of the battery life and other materials. And software, obviously, is the user experience, the driver experience, which is mostly being led at the moment by AI. So maybe I'll just talk about the software side of it. Like for the next 5 years, and what we see now because of the huge increase in processing speeds of chips, processors, is AI, and that's enhancing the driver experience. So you can look around here today and see there's some emerging design for vehicles, but until you get inside and until you get and drive and experience these cars, you can start to see some of the things that are being put in place in terms of the software, and it's being driven by AI. And a lot of that is safety, so obviously increase in processing speeds, many more cameras with resolution refresh rates, 12 times what they've been before. So if you've got more cameras, faster processing, as well as AI, it's learning what you're doing as a driver, looking at your responses in different weather, what you do in rain, how you sit, how your kids behave in the back. And that might seem flippant, but you start to see AI and the learning of the vehicles and how they're not shouting at your kids at the back how to behave, but certainly if they're putting things to their mouth or to their face or misbehaving. Even as a driver now, yawning at the wheel, my car is telling me that, focus. And so a lot of these features that I think will emerge are all being driven from AI, learning how the drivers respond and bringing extra safety and entertainment experiences as well.
Yeah, it's a good point that it's not just about the experience, it's also about safety as well, where AI comes in handy. Chris, as a consumer, do you agree with this? Is this where we're heading towards with AI and safety?
Yeah, absolutely. I think building upon those things you've said, there's definitely a synergy now where over-the-air updates, they're served to you. Like my car now has more range compared to when I got it 2 years ago. And I think in the future, we'll see car makers like Xpeng and others, where instead of those, say, motor changes, battery management changes, stuff that we can't actually play with or alter, it will actually observe my driving behaviour, my route, my driving habits, and modify the profile accordingly. So I think for the people who actually, like foots and they are very gentle on the pedal, they will be rewarded. Whereas maybe me, not so much, but that's okay. I don't mind.
Sam?
Yeah, mate. Do you want to tell everyone here how your car magically got more range? Because not everyone's going to understand that.
So with Tesla and there's other car makers out there, they do an over-the-air update, and what they've done is they've actually changed the profile with the acceleration curve and then also the battery management to increase the actual range of my car. So when I got it delivered, it was like 425 kilometers realistically. Now it's doing 440, and this is a battery that's done 55,000 kilometers. So I beg anybody who's got an internal combustion engine vehicle has the same efficiency and range as the day they got it brand new. I guarantee they do not.
Yeah, that's awesome. I see three big things happening in the industry. One, cars driving themselves. Now, when I was in California a few weeks ago, I'm sure you've had this experience, Chris, and maybe you have, Tom. I got in a Tesla Model 3 and it drove me very aggressively by itself. I was shocked. I was thinking, this thing's going to crash. But you can make different choices and settings. If you want the car to be aggressive and not get, have someone overtake you, you can make it more aggressive. So the person who owned the car put on the aggressive setting, which kind of freaked me out because it was really quite aggressive. And I didn't touch anything. And it drove us back home from the restaurant. Now, the following day, I got in a Cybertruck and we drove for 1 hour without me touching anything. Nothing at all. Now, I tried to drive the vehicle myself and I could not drive it as well as the car can. Now, that's the kind of technology that Xpeng have in China. And that's the technology these guys, they're very similar technology, vision only like what Tesla have that they're working on in China. So that's going to be coming to certain car brands who are really investing in artificial intelligence. Your car will be able to drive you. And I see our kids being able to get to their ball games that we maybe can't take them to some days. In robo cars, that's going to happen. I also think range is a big one. We're going to see some of these new batteries, new battery chemistry, massive increases in batteries. Chemistry, meaning we're going to get, vehicles, pickup trucks, utes, cars doing 1,000 kilometers of range in an EV. And petrol cars will look really crap. People will be like, you got a petrol car? Oh, right, I feel sorry for you. That's what I think is going to happen. And I also think charging speed. People think you've got to wait a long time to charge your car. Now, the Xpeng car, the G6 that I've been driving, you can charge that in around 20 minutes. It's actually very, very fast. And I see more improvements coming in that area, more and more faster charging cars. In China, there's charging cables that can do charging cables, and they call them piles. They can do 600 kilowatt charging speeds for an EV, meaning you can charge in even 10 minutes. So all these things are coming in. Honestly, the tech changes. You're asking the question. I'm thinking, what am I going to say? There's so many things to talk about. They're three things that came to my mind.
Yeah, thanks, Sam. That's great. I'm in two minds. I do want to drive my own car to some extent, but at times I do want the car to drive me. So maybe you can have best of both worlds. On the subject of self-driving, Jason, Xpeng is one of the leaders in self-driving technology in China, apart from Tesla, of course. Are you bringing the same technology to Australia? Are you pushing governments to accept self-driving? What's Xpeng's stance here in Australia?
Yeah, absolutely. As Sam was saying, with that autonomous driving, Xpeng are actually a technology company, and they're now producing their own chips. And by developing their own processing chips, they can get the speed that they need for gathering all of that information, processing it for the safety for autonomous driving. Clearly, in China, where regulation is a little different to here, the autonomous driving is activated. They're mapping cities themselves rather than relying on third-party maps because they have that processing power now. And so with the reliability of the mapping and the technology and the speed, the autonomous driving becomes much safer because the objects, the threats and everything else are more known. Here, although we're bringing in cars ready for Australia, obviously certified for that, the software is still ready for the autonomous driving, but a number of the deep features are deactivated. they are there for the Australian market. But in terms of lane changing, automated parking, it's next level of some of those features that you can have. In time, you'll see more autonomous driving. Sam's example of Cybertruck for, what was it, an hour on a freeway?
Yeah. Have any of you guys seen the G6 do park itself in a car park? So
It's pretty impressive.
you can look on the screen, and when you're in a car park, it'll see all the available car park spots, even ones you can't see, which is insane. I don't know how it does that. And you can click on whichever spot you want, and it'll just drive over there and park in that spot. Have you guys seen how many scratches there are in car parks on like the poles and the walls and things? So that's a cool feature. But I think another feature that you pointed was safety. And safety is a huge thing. I was driving it with my boys in the back of the car. No, my son was in the front, my other son was in the back, 11 and 8 years old, went around a roundabout and someone went straight through and was like a centimetre away from hitting us. I slammed the brakes on and I tried to turn away, but the truth is that was really close to being a really bad side impact accident, and that really scared me, and I was really thinking, oh, my kids could have been killed from that psycho person. So you can't control sometimes if someone hits you, even with the best software technology. And that's one of the differences with a lot of electric cars. They now have technology in them that means that if you hit the side of that car, you're much less likely to be injured. In fact, the safety difference between a new EV versus some of the other internal combustion cars is astronomical. One of the things that I think we should point out with some cars is structural battery packs. A lot of people in China, you say to them, what EV are you going to buy? And they want one with a structural battery pack because they know that's going to protect you in that situation. Someone else hits you, you can't do anything about it, goes through a red light, and then you're going to be safer. So the G6 actually is like Tesla. They use gigacastings front and rear, two massive pieces of metal front and rear, and then they join that with a structural battery pack, meaning that when it's in a crash, your likelihood of dying is so much lower. So that's one of the things, I think we don't talk about the safety of new EVs, but you've got to check, is that what EV, how is that made? And that's one of the reasons that I obviously have this car, because it uses similar technology to Tesla, which makes it so much safer. So Chris, you know a bit about the safety of Tesla EVs?
Supposedly the safest cars in the world, you know. And I think that a lot of car makers strive to get that 5-car ANCAP rating, and that it's something that EVs can do very, very well. And as you know, both yourself, Sam, and Jason have said here, is that unlike an internal combustion engine vehicle that's got a big block of metal up the front called an engine and a transmission shaft and other stuff, you don't have that. And so you've got massive crumple zones, and then couple that with a structural battery pack, and altogether, the sum is actually greater than the parts, and that is actually a safer vehicle to be in. So yeah, goodness forbid that was close, so I'm grateful that you're okay. So yeah.
Thanks, guys. Let's switch tack just for a bit here. Chris, I must stay with you. You mentioned earlier that you won the case in Victoria, and another round of applause for Chris for helping get that over the line. What are the other sort of significant misconceptions that policymakers have about EVs and their technology?
I guess, look, coming from the point whereby people believe that if you fuel with fuel, petroleum products, you're paying an excise, you're paying for roads, which is an absolute misnomer. Like, if you actually pay taxes, if you pay council rates, if you pay whatever tax in the world, you are paying for roads. And the actual truth of the matter is that fuel excise is a tax that fuels vehicles to keep vehicles going. And just this last year in Australia, we actually contribute per litre 1.8 cents per litre to keep cars going in Australia. So per day, we're spending millions of dollars to keep this nation going. But if we go to battery electric, where you can actually fuel it for free from the sun yourself, or you can actually use energy made in Australia from wind farms, even goodness forbid, from coal, you're actually buying Australian, you're using Australian energy. 85% of our energy for for petroleum products comes from overseas. And we're paying this petroleum resource, security fee to keep some refineries open. And so first up, fuel excise does not pay for roads. So government will need to tackle how they're going to fund roads in the future, but right now, they shouldn't be seeing electric vehicles as the enemy, because you know what? If we could transform our market, talk about the energy market, the infrastructure that supports that, so fast charging places, slower charging places, home charging. It's a great equaliser that I think government needs to actually look into and support, because instead of all our money going to overseas companies, it can actually be kept here.
We heard this morning from Minister Chris Bowen that V2G applications are now open for manufacturers to support that, which excited me. Jason, will Xpeng be applying for that?
We will, yeah. So obviously with Xpeng, we're looking to enter the Australian market with a Chinese EV. And what we've done there is obviously we studied the whole market in China. We came across more than 100 different brands that are available. And you can see today there are quite a few being displayed today, and it's fantastic. So with the market and how we see things, we're also looking at these initiatives, but also the potential tariffs and what that might do to the import of foreign vehicles. In terms of a technology sense, so a potential tariff on a Chinese EV, we think that will force much more efficient manufacture, design. A number of brands will fail, a number will thrive, and quite a few will survive. But certainly what we see is that some of these incentives and some of these threats will just evolve a better quality, more efficient, more economical manufacturing importing process, and beneficial to end owners.
Sam, question for you. V2G, I mean, that's exciting, right? If you had a car with a big battery, would you use that to power your home?
A lot of people say, why have manufacturers not made V2G available yet, right? Well, why wouldn't they do it? Why wouldn't they let you use your battery pack to power your house? Imagine how much money you could save. Imagine how it would change the grid in Australia. We could get rid of a lot of the coal use. You know, we store all that solar energy in the day, then we use it at night. And right now we're wasting billions of dollars worth of solar energy every day in Australia because we have to curtail it. So we can save all that, not send it into the grid that's not actually needing it, and use it. So using a car, it's like having 5 Tesla Powerwalls, right? I think that, first of all, it's proved in Australia. That's amazing. That's a huge game changer for Australia, for EVs, for you guys. You're going to save an enormous amount of money, I think, in the long run with that technology. I think it'll still take a couple of years to get here, but that's going to be a game changer, man. And what do you think so too?
Yeah. Just to clarify, sorry, V2G. When we say V2G, we should really say V2X. So V2X covers vehicle to load, vehicle to home, vehicle to grid. A lot of our cars currently now can do V2L, which is vehicle to load. You can plug in an appliance straight away into your car. But V2 home, you can power your home. V2 grid, you can export it to the grid from your car. So that's kind of the exciting technology that we're talking about, which is going to change the landscape.
So Europe wants manufacturers to do it. Australia wants manufacturers to do it. It's going to be a big part of Australia's future, and I think that's hugely important. But one of the things I want to talk to you guys about a little bit was this whole idea with EVs don't have enough range, right? EVs don't have enough range, and when you actually own one and you start driving and you get used to it, you realise that's not the case at all. But what's really exciting to me is the range of EVs continues to go up every year. We're seeing more and more and more range every single year, to the point where, to be honest, there's some cars in China now that have 1,000 kilometres of range. They can charge, at really fast speeds, like the G6 I mentioned before. So I see that continuing to happen, guys, to the point where no one's going to be talking about range. They're going to be saying, look at the energy density of some of the latest new batteries. The range is amazing. I think you're going to say something too.
Yeah, no, it's exactly right. So even with like existing batteries and using tech and AI to run diagnostics over the battery and real-time updates and how drivers are using the car, it's expected that you get an extra 30% of range on an existing battery just being efficient, just with what's coming next in the next iteration of AI and diagnostics on that. So, and then with charging, like targeting 1 kilometre a second charge time is where we're going to get to pretty quickly.
And if I could just say and kindly ask people out there who are thinking about going electric for the first time, but they're waiting for that 1,000 kilometre battery, which is a solid state battery to my understanding right now. coming 2026, by the way, is that don't wait. You realistically do not need to drive Melbourne and Sydney continuously. That is just a dangerous thing to do. Have a break, fill up, charge up, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, have a coffee, go nature, and you can then move on. Most people only drive 40 to 50 kilometres per day, and you can recharge that if you live at home with a power socket that's available in 3-4 hours from a standard outlet. You do not need a special charger at home, despite what the media will tell you.
Great point. Just on range, actually, I wanted to ask Jason while he's on stage. We've seen other brands like BYD bring in plug-in hybrids, just as a stopgap for people who perceive that range is not enough in an EV. I've seen Xpeng in China talk about an extended range EVs. Is that something Xpeng is going to do in Australia as well? Bring in a hybrid, or are we going to stick with BEVs? Yeah.
Well, I saw that, Tom, and I got to say I was quite surprised to see a EV-only technology company talk about a hybrid to extend range. So that has been announced. And the reason behind that is that Xpeng have now exported to over 30 countries. So, it's only a 10-year-old company, and they're understanding the demands of new markets that they're exporting to. So that's the reasoning behind it. They haven't announced a release date for that, and this might go against company policy, but personally speaking, I'm not a big hybrid fan, because as Sam was saying, range anxiety and not enough range, it just is not the case for the majority of EV drivers.
Xpeng have 2 new cars that are kind of going crazy in China right now. You've got the Mona and the P7 Plus, and I think you got 30,000 pre-orders for the P7 Plus in about an hour, which is crazy. Are you guys considering bringing either of those cars to Australia? Because obviously they could be quite popular here as well.
Yeah, I think so. So the Mona, the pre-orders were something like 30,000 in 50 minutes. So yeah, you're right on that. So the demand obviously is really there. And Mona stands for Made on New AI. So it's a very technologically advanced vehicle. We're hoping we actually get a model shipped before the end of the year. We've got one. And then the P7 Plus that was launched at the Paris Motor Show, we'll have a demonstrator model of that next year. But we're pushing to have those models in Australia within the next 18 months.
Can I just mention, their new EV is crazy because it's gotten a lot of press in China because it's basically a Tesla Model 3 rival, which in China costs half the price of a Tesla Model 3. It's literally half the price. I don't know how they're doing it, but the manufacturing processes are clearly incredible for you guys to be able to produce it at that kind of price point in China, which is, what you guys are doing is kind of exciting to be around. But as you mentioned with Xpeng, you also have the flying aeroplane over there. I heard they were trying to get approval for that to actually be able to fly one of those in Australia. What's the deal with that? Could we be like the Jetsons, like flying around in flying cars? Could that happen?
Well, could it happen? It actually is happening. So, look, it's called the flying car. It's actually professionally known as an eVTOL, which is electric vertical takeoff and landing point to point. The model that we have on display here has actually done fly time. It's not a gimmick. It is registerable in parts of the world. So if you're living in Dubai, you could actually register an Xpeng X2. I think in Dubai, if you have enough money, you can do the hell you want. Anyway, so that's real. People think is it just a domestic vehicle, and it really is. But the applications are more for emergency services, where a helicopter is just way too intrusive, loud, chewing up fossil fuels. This has got no carbon emissions. It's only 360 kilograms. It has a range of 75 kilometers. It's light. And it's going to retail at close to 200,000 Australian dollars, which seems a lot, but a helicopter is going to push it back a couple of mil.
I'm kind of shocked because you've actually sold more than 10,000 of them, and you're building a factory in China just to build those. So clearly it's real, it's coming.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. We had this at the Future Drive Expo in Melbourne, and we had about 6 or 7 pretty firm orders in 3 days. And mostly from rural areas like farmers who have helicopters, and every 5 years they've got to spend several $100,000 on an engine out service, and they've got to store fuel. They could buy 5 of these, have 3 on charge, 2 ready to go.
I think there'll be some clients from Point Piper or Mossman probably looking for a ride to the airport every week, so I'm not surprised.
But guys, there's also the car version, right? There's a car that turns into a flying one as well.
This is the first model. The next iteration is that the rotors fold out and fold in. It does have 4 wheels and is literally a flying car. Whereas this that flies.
Okay, so we've got about 15 minutes left or so. We've talked about V2G, we've talked about self-driving. I'm going to whip around one more time with these guys and then we'll throw it to the floor for some questions. But Sam, we're starting with you. What is on your wish list for EVs, apart from what we've discussed so far? Anything else that you wish was in an EV in the next few years?
The biggest thing I really personally want, it is a little bit maybe emotional, but I want to get rid of coal in Australia, even though a lot of people hate it when I say that because they feel like we are dependent on coal. I don't think we are. I think, like Chris said before, we create our own energy, we create our own solar, we can get rid of buying all this petrol from overseas, and actually that works better for us. So I want to get rid of coal. So vehicle to grid, to me, to hearing that today, to see Europe saying that's only a $100 part that you need in a car, that we can change the Australian grid. Imagine if every EV in Australia was plugged into the grid. Then we could just get rid of all these coal power plants. And you know, people don't realise, but there's a study done in the United States. Over 22 years, they looked at everyone who lived within 150 kilometres of a coal power plant. And a lot of people thought, well, living 100 kilometres away, I'll be fine. They weren't. In fact, they found that 22 million people died prematurely from living within 150 kilometres of a coal power plant. They're not green and they're not healthy for you. So changing the grid like that, and it's not only changing the grid and getting rid of coal, it's also you guys saving money. A lot of Australians have pressure with income, and they've got a family, you've got to pay a big mortgage and interest rates are high, and not having to pay for electricity, getting a solar panels on your house, being connected, being energy independent, and then having an amazing EV to drive as well at the same time. So that's what I'm really looking forward to.
For me, I'll just build upon what Sam has said there, in that definitely, like if you live in South Australia or WA, particularly WA, where they've got a monopoly on electricity over there, who's your provider? One choice. That's it. You're paying 70 cents, that's 70 cents per kilowatt hour for your energy over there. Could you imagine that electricity bill? I could not. And that's what these guys are paying. So the quicker we can actually enable people to, have solar, have vehicle to grid. The battery is, provides a house with electricity, all the better. But coming then to the idea where electric vehicles, we need to think more broadly too. So despite the bad rap that scooters have had and urban mobility, electric motorbikes, sure, there's a safety concern there, and each to their own. So if you're crazy enough like me, I used to be a motorbike rider, go for it. But nonetheless, it's a very efficient form of transport going electric. Like, what's the energy difference? I forget, what is it?
I don't remember what it is, actually. It's huge.
It is crazy huge, because a lot of what petrol and diesel cars do is create heat, and it gets expanded. So realistically...
32% versus 94%.
Exactly, yeah. So you think about the petroleum lifeline. It goes from somewhere under the sea, it gets into a ship, goes across our oceans, gets refined, all that energy just to get it to a fuel pump to ultimately be burnt off and we ingest it into our lungs. So I'd like to see that in the very near future in Australia, we're like Norway, we've got 90-95% buy rate. Half the cars you see on the road are electric, and from that stems a lot of new industries that we don't have right now. We need people to support this new car industry, so that's charging support and so forth.
You just made me think of, in some places in the world, some...
The car alarm's working.
In some... I don't know if I can talk while this is on.
Lost our train of thought, man.
With the owner of the Model X,
Tesla.
there it goes.
Tesla, what? Tesla. In some places in the world, you're banned when you pick your kids up from school or anywhere from just idling your car. because they recognise the fact that exhaust gases do cause cancer. So obviously, as many of you guys know, my wife has stage terminal cancer, so that's very kind of personal for me. So when I'm breathing in those fumes from my cars, I'm thinking, this is bad. I don't want to be doing this. But often you don't have a choice, do you? You just can't avoid it. So I think, well, for me, that's a big thing. Getting those petrol cars, those diesel cars off the road. Electric cars everywhere. Noise pollution causes a huge increase in heart attacks. If you live near a highway, freeway, you're 50% more likely in Australia to have a heart attack. That's actually real data. So you get rid of the noise from EVs, the G6, the Xpeng G6, very quiet, Tesla car's very quiet. You can hear the stereo really well, there's no engine noise, there's no pollution. It's like the perfect situation. So,
Jason?
Tom, my wish list sadly has a lot of self-interest, which is not surprising being an exhibitor here, but wholesale EV adoption is something that's high on my wish list. And further to what Sam was saying, like in a previous life, I used to travel to Guangzhou and Shenzhen in China for work in financial services, and I'd spend a week at a time, and this is about 10 years ago, and the cities were chaotic. There's about 15 million or more people in these cities, but after a day's work, my eyes would be burning. There's black rain, smog, you literally couldn't breathe. If you look at your phone now, depending on what you have, and look at the air quality index of Shenzhen and Guangzhou, it's excellent.
70% of all car sales in Shenzhen now are EV, 70%.
Even higher, and 60% in Guangzhou now. And these are huge cities. And when you go there, like I was there 10 years ago and I go there now regularly, these cities have been transformed. They're quiet, peaceful, as you're saying, Chris. It is stunning how it has changed. It's not all EV adoption. There's obviously a lot of manufacturing and other things that some of it's been moved elsewhere. But the air quality has transformed and the cities have transformed. Peaceful, less chaotic, and you can breathe the air.
And I can attest to that. I've been to China twice this year now, once with Sam, and yeah, the air quality is fantastic. The streets are quiet. That's the kind of future I want in Sydney and Melbourne and Brisbane, where I can walk around with my kids and it's just peaceful and quiet.
And you left me behind and I got lost.
Yeah.
We were looking at all these different car brands. I was getting excited.
Oh, that's right.
And I started filming these car brands. And I was seeing all these EV shops, and this is at like 10 o'clock at night, and they're all open, right?
And poor Sam and I had a sore foot.
And I just broke my foot, and I got left behind. I got lost. I didn't have my phone. I didn't even know where the hotel was. I was totally lost.
And in China, Google Maps doesn't work very well.
No, it doesn't.
We were really lost, proper lost.
It's blocked.
Fun fact, I used to live in South Korea for 2 years, so I know some Korean.
Yeah.
Let's see, it's been many years. So, 안녕하세요.
안녕하세요.
Hey. There we go. That's what I can remember for the moment. Anyway,
You're on a roll.
I'm on a roll. I'm here with Scott from Hankook Tyres, along with Jim, and they've got a great exhibit here at the 2024 International Electric Vehicle Show in Sydney. Thanks for coming along. Really appreciate it.
Yeah.
So tell us something about your tyres. Like, I understand that you develop for Formula E. You support Tesla, and you make a great product. What's the tyre of choice that you would recommend?
Well, basically we're taking the technology from the Formula E, and that's helping with the design, but we have a great replacement tyre called the Ion, and it's been designed from the bottom up. So for a driver, you're going to get a much stiffer sidewall, which will help because of the weight of the tyre, and also too because of the torque of vehicles. The belt design ensures that it has long life. So the Ion product, we're so confident with it, we give it a 14-day customer satisfaction guarantee and a 70,000 kilometre tread wear guarantee. So that's how confident we are with the technology that sits behind it.
That is pretty impressive. And I recently bought a set of my car, and I was shocked by that 70,000 kilometre warranty. Like, I've never in my life got that many kilometres from the tyres, so that's very impressive.
Yeah. And again, it's been out in the marketplace, so we know that we get those kilometres, and that's really important from a cost perspective. That your cost per kilometre is low. You've got your initial purchase price, but it's really the cost per kilometre that's the critical thing.
Awesome. So Hankook Tyres are actually not, you invest a lot of research and development into making these tyres, and one of the things that I found in my car was it actually decreased the noise levels.
True.
Really appreciate them.
Yeah.
So what's some of the tech that goes into these tyres?
So we put the foam inside, so it cancels all the noise from the road. They observe the noise, so it's very quiet inside the car.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I was just remarkable how by just, the compound, that I think is making a difference, the tread, the foam also, all works together to actually, give a better driving experience. And in terms of performance, is this something you would recommend for someone who's, a little bit heavy on the old gas? Well, electricity gas?
Yeah. Basically, if you're talking about that from a rolling resistance point of view, it's reduced rolling resistance, so you will actually reduce basically the drain on the battery, so that's critical from that perspective. So, but if you're talking about hard on the gas, I'm assuming put the accelerator down.
Yeah, put the electrons down.
Yeah. Well, again, the belt design ensures that it can handle that torque and doesn't get shredded. That's sometimes what happens if it's a traditional tyre. It basically it can't handle that additional torque. So, someone like yourself, if you are a lead foot,
I'm okay. Yeah. But you'll see people on forums and they will critique whatever tyre it is, and they'll say, I didn't get many kilometres from that because I think they're a little bit on the old,
Exactly.
So
you often see it at the stoplights. A grandmother in a Tesla, and bang, they're off. So sometimes people don't actually realise the acceleration they do get.
Exactly. Yeah. And look, I've seen some videos out of Hankook, and you've got some really impressive R&D over there. It'd be great to get there, by the way. It'd be really fun. What's the next step for a tyre that you'd like to see?
There are many development and research are going on in the headquarters, so we are investing so many our assets to develop the new tire. There's one of the examples is our ion tire. And future is going to be there's an airless tire. So it's already we designed and built one. Now it's time we need to make it commercialized. So it's on the way.
Okay, that'd be awesome. I guess there is. I think airless tires aren't new, but I think one that has longevity and performance. That's new. That's definitely awesome. Really appreciate that. And I guess one thing about Hankook Tyres is, look, they're an international brand, and I'm now joined by Bruce from the New Zealand Hankook Tyres.
Yes.
Look, is there much difference over there, or what's your typical customer look like in New Zealand?
Hankook in New Zealand is considered a premium product.
Okay.
So, they are wanting to buy good value for money and get a good quality product.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess you guys already work with Tesla and other brands which I consider premium. And I think that people really can't go wrong by going with the next set, which is what I did. I was like, I don't know what to choose here. Tesla's chosen that. There must be a reason for it. So and
not only Tesla, the Porsche.
Porsche.
There's a strong replacement market because of the OE fitments that Hankook has, not just on the EVs, but it flows down into other car brands as well.
Sweet.
Premium brands. Audi is very popular in New Zealand, and Hankook have a great relationship with Audi, so that's one of the strong OE replacement markets. And then you've got your Korean brands as well.
Sweet, that's good. All right, so thanks very much to June, to Bruce.
You got it.
I got it.
Yeah,
I got it. And Scott. Anyway, so do come and check out the guys here at the 2024 Sydney International EV Show. They're doing a buy 3, get 1 free deal. You can spin the wheel back here and potentially win something like the gift vouchers giveaway. And great tyres.
Okay, thanks guys. We've got about 5 to 10 minutes of questions. So there's one right there. Thanks, Alyssa. Striped shirt. Thank you, John. Thank you, sir.
Oh, sorry. Yes, I want to thank you for your YouTube channels because they're awesome. I'm a big fan of your stuff. The election in the US was just mind-boggling, but how Tesla shares have skyrocketed, as you probably know, 24% over the last 2 days. But with full self-driving, I heard one of the politicians or senators was saying about the states control full self-driving regulation in the states in America, but the federal government now with Trump in power may increase that to speed up the process for self-driving in the States. I wonder what your thoughts were on that. And I hope Shannon's okay and family's good.
I think Jason might be good to answer that. What do you think?
I just didn't quite catch that question.
It's about the election in the US and how's that going to change with EV policy, I suppose.
I thought it was trying to get automated driving approved. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah. Correct.
Yeah. So you guys will work on that though, right? Xpeng, you're trying to get the Australian government to approve your software, is that right?
Yeah, we are. I mean, obviously that's the future of EVs and the benefit of them and the future of mobility of getting around. So we continue to lobby to, enable that type of technology here. In terms of the first point of the election, obviously there's discussion and threats of, it's very significant tariffs on imported cars. Obviously a political positioning there, but there is a very, very large domestic automobile industry in the US that needs to be protected. Else it's going to die because of what you see here today. There's not too many US brands, there's one obvious one, but the future is not with what we've seen coming out of the US. And in terms of autonomous driving, again, having been to China a lot, where the restrictions are less, and we call it Chinatown. It just moves so much faster. There's just much more framework. There is a lot of red tape still, but when there's incentive or agreement to move forward, they do very, very quickly, and we don't here. We see red tape and we stop at red tape and spend many years getting around it, but we're up for that fight and keep pushing on.
Guys, I just want to quickly make the point, even though we all talk about Chinese technology and EVs, we're not supporting the Chinese government. That's what I think a lot of people think, that we're up here sort of spruiking China. It's not the case at all. We're just talking about what's happening with the technology and really how we can improve Australia, improve our lives individually. I just want to clarify that, because sometimes...
Well, that's interesting for Xpeng. They're listed on the New York Stock Exchange. So there's US mums and dads heavily invested in our company.
It's true.
I do get some comments on my videos when I do review something like Xpeng or BYD. It's always, I wish this was in the US. I wish we could see it here. So there is obviously some interest.
There is.
Any other questions? Yes, one over here.
All right. I'm just wondering what you think about nuclear power. Personally, I think it would be an expensive disaster if Australia went down that path, but I'm just interested in what you think on either side of that argument.
Chris, you want to take that?
Yeah, I've done a video on this, and I've got to say that taking aside the long build, the extremely high cost, it's got a great life and it's got a very low carbon emission when it's actually running, but then the fuel issue and then the subsequent deconstruction is massive. And I think the conversation hasn't really occurred. It's not a mature argument that anyone's putting forward right now. And so realistically, based upon advice from the Australian Energy Market Operator, the CSIRO, and other very learned professors who have looked into this, right now in Australia, we have got so much saturation during the middle of the day with solar and wind. Like just yesterday, our energy production in Australia, renewable energy for the National Energy Market on Eastern Board, was 126% meeting demand. Renewable energy meeting demand. We do not need nuclear power. The argument around base load is gone. That time is gone. Nuclear power time has gone. It needs to move forward, look to battery as to firm, look to battery hydro storage, there's other ways, wind, and yeah, I don't think that if everybody drives an electric vehicle, the argument's been, well, if we're going to all charge our cars at once, what will happen to the grid? It will melt down. Realistically, do we all bake cakes at the same time? That's the sort of energy we use in our homes when we charge our cars. We do not all bake cakes at the same time.
Nuclear power's in the sky, look at the sun. Sorry.
I totally agree with you. It's an enormous mistake. It's insane. You're 100% on the money. You're right. Like what you said, people think we need nuclear baseload. We have enough wind. There's another one of the biggest wind farms in Australia, well, the biggest was just announced. That's the baseload, right? But we know from South Australia, they're running on renewables already. They're saying 2026, 100% renewables. Clearly, is the Liberal government ignoring that? Are they just pretending South Australia doesn't exist? I think you're on the money. I totally agree with you. Yeah.
Well, one last question.
How do we get myths broken for people just coming into the industry? Because I think that's a big barrier for people picking up the wrong information. How do we stop the lies that are out there in the industry?
Tom, what
I think, realistically, this kind of thing is what we need, more expos. You guys are actually some of the mythbusters out there. You've got the facts, you've got YouTube channels like ours, you've got social media. Look at evfiresafe.org. Those are the kind of facts we need to propagate. And unfortunately, some of the media don't pick up on that. Sam, got some ideas?
Yeah, no doubt fossil fuel interests are intentionally trying to slow it down. There's no question they're doing this. It's in their interest, right? I mean, they're making billions of dollars. They're trying to keep the gravy train running. The media, what are they doing? The media often will print what's sensational, who is paying the media, who's paying for their advertising. There's a clear, very, very obvious connection there. And what can we do about that? Well, I think what we can do about that is stop watching them. If they're going to talk a bunch of bullshit, stop watching them. They're just making things up. I mean, they are. They're making things up to get clicks. And the media in Australia are a big part of the problem because they're creating this false information. EV fires all over the place. How many have we had in Australia? EV fires? 3 or 4?
Five. Max 5.
It's 5. 5. Even the fire brigade says there's no problem with it. In fact, the facts say that EVs are in most countries, what is it, like 20 times less likely to catch fire than a petrol powered car. 20 times less likely, so they're so much safer. So I think you guys are actually the influencers. It's not just us. It's not just Chris and I and Tom. You guys are you're more important than us because you can influence your friends. You can tell them, mate, just because Barry down the road told you that bunch of crap, doesn't mean it's true.
Yeah. And I've got to say, building upon the topic we're talking about here today, technology, and if you've got to pull the pin and jump into electric, awesome, really appreciate it. But the conversations I have with people who are considering electric, always got that what if. What if I do need to drive to Melbourne? What if I, Sydney? Where are we now? We're in Sydney. I'm from Melbourne, apologies. And realistically, people just, I think, overestimate what the real use case looks for them and what an EV looks like for them. And my best advice I say to people is, obviously keep the conversation, topical and relevant and right and so forth. But at the same time, just tell them, it's just a car. It's just a car that happens to have a very big battery in it. And that battery will take you places, and if you're like 7 out of 10 people in Australia who can plug in at home, your fuel costs are going to dramatically drop. Oh my gosh, there's a saving right there.
You could tell them about the battery warranties on cars now. I mean, look, we've got these new 1,000,000 mile batteries, right? Xpeng got a 10-year battery warranty. Others have got unlimited kilometre warranty, battery warranties. The battery will outlast the life of your car. It will. We have enough data to know that that's the case. This whole idea, that's one of the biggest problems that I see. Your battery's going to last for a few years, going to need a new battery. How do people believe that? I think you guys are the ones who have to help us to change that story. Tell your friends that's not true.
That's what people told me when I bought my Model S in 2016. It's only going to last me a couple of years. It's still going strong at the moment, so 8 years down the track. I think we could talk about this all day, but unfortunately time is up. Sam and myself are going to stay on stage for another fireside chat, so we might continue that conversation, but I want to thank our other guests, Mr. Jason Clarke from Xpeng and Chris Vanderstock.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, gents. They might be off stage to chat to you further if you like as well.